I was just about to ask you. You were a stockbroker.
Yeah.
And then something happened. What was that thing that happened?
Yeah. So, it was the first of many midlife crises. I was in my mid-20s and I was like, well, this is all there is. I'm not sure it's enough for me. It wasn't a bad thing I was doing, but it wasn't, it wasn't a big enough purpose. It's often said you learn what it is to be a man from your father, or even if he didn't tell you. And my father was always, it's to make a lot of money. He never made a lot of money, but I knew that was what it was if you were going to really be a man. And so I made a lot of money in my very early 20s as a stockbroker. And then it was like, wow, I'm not sure this is enough for me. And I started to volunteer with a local youth ministry with high school kids. And that began to be what was stirring my passion and my interest much more than my job was even. And so that was led me on a track of, I want to work with kids who are leadership kids. And I left my job, went to seminary, never thinking I was going to be a pastor. That wasn't in the, but I wanted to understand the spiritual solutions to some of these things with kids. And my wife was doing this kind of work before me. And when we moved to Massachusetts from Minnesota, she got an experiment in 1987 to lead a Bible study in a juvenile facility here in Massachusetts. They didn't allow such things in those days. And I thought that was nice. It was a great thing, but it wasn't my interest. I wanted to work with leadership youth. Mm-hmm. So there was 1 week where her...
What is leadership youth?
Well, I was, good question. Those who are going someplace, young people with that are going to make a difference, leaders. And okay. So I had never been in a juvenile jail. And then when her Bible study leader was gone on vacation a couple of weeks, she said, well, can you come in with me? And, how are you going to tell your wife no? You can go in there on your own. And, I didn't know what these kids were like, but I'm imagining, they're violent, they're criminals, they're thugs, whatever. And so I went in there, and first kid that comes up to me, his name was Ricky. And he says, can you pray for me? Are you the Bible study leader? I said, yeah. Can you pray for me? Okay, what do you want to pray for? Well, I got court tomorrow. I'm like, okay, so you're trying to beat the case, I'm sure. And he's like, no, pray that I tell the truth. I said, oh, have you talked to your lawyer about this? He said, yeah, my lawyer swore at me when I told him I wanted to tell the truth. And I said, how come? He said, because you told me I could do 20 years in adult prison. And I said, well, Ricky, God can do anything, but you can't be thinking he's just going to get you out of here because you plead guilty. And he said, no, I didn't think it was going to get me out of here, but I've been reading this Bible you guys gave me. It says you're supposed to tell the truth. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good point, but wow, I didn't know what to tell him, He's only 15. He could do 20 years if he pleads guilty. His lawyer told him.
So this is in the 80s? In the 80s?
This was in 1987.
And even then, a 15-year-old, we talked about it before, but it's still hard to believe that a 15-year-old had a life sentence.
But 20 years, yeah.
Wow. Okay, so now you're in a little bit of a conundrum.
Yeah, so I was definitely praying, but my commitment was to go in for 1 week. Now I went in the next week to see what happened to him, and he's there. I said, well, what happened? Did you go to court? Yeah. Did you plead guilty? Yeah. What'd your lawyer say? Well, he swore at me. Then why are you here? He said, because my sentencing is going to be in 5.5 months in the Superior Court. And so now he's just a little kid, his mother moved from Worcester to New York. He's a Puerto Rican kid. And so I kept going in to help him get ready for 5.5 months, what's going to happen to him. And I was having an impact on him, I think, but he was having a big impact on me. So 5.5 months later, we go before the Superior Court judge in Dedham, and he stands before her, and she says to him, the judge, why did you plead guilty? I talked to your lawyer. He recommended that you not, and witnesses can come and go, and you defer these things. And he said, well, I know how I came in here, and I don't want to leave that same person. And he tells her something like that, and that's why I owned what I did. And she was quite puzzled by it. She looked at him, she said, I'm going to do something I've never done before. I'm going to overturn the decision for you to go into the adult prison system and keep you in the juvenile system till you're 21. And that day, I left and I was like, wow. I knew I was called to work with leadership youth. I just didn't know it was these kids. But this kid at 15 would do something that I don't know many 35 or 55-year-olds willing to do. I don't know what I would do. Mm-hmm. And he was willing to put it on the line like that. And so I was hooked, and I just kept coming. And I've always seen them that way, as leaders, not as problems to be fixed, but as leaders. I mean, if you can make it out there when half the people are trying to kill you and the other half are trying to arrest you, you do have something going for you. Mm-hmm. And then you see a kid like Ricky who's willing to put it on the line at age 15 when it could cost him 20 years, because he reads in the Bible, it says you're supposed to tell the truth. Mm-hmm. And God shows up in those places when we really can't do it ourselves. We know that from almost everything. And it's a theory until it comes to a point like that.